StrifeCro vs. Muzzy is going to start off here for our September 20th broadcast. We have StrifeCro playing the Reno Hunter to start things off. Muzzy with the Control Warrior. We've been seeing Priests slowly take over, TJ. Last week, we had a couple of players not bringing Priest. This week, we only have one player not bringing Priest in all of Grandmasters. Pretty soon, we're going to have the complete takeover by Week 6. And Week 7 is going to be the last regulation play going into playoffs. The way it's going to shake down is that 7 weeks of regular season play, Season 2 a top 4 per division playoff. So we have 8 players, and then from those top 8 players, whoever's number 1 gets a 1-round bye, and whoever's number 4 gets seeded directly into the losers bracket. So every match here is going to be really important for these players and how they're positioning themselves for playoffs. That's what's on Muzzy's mind. StrifeCro, he's just trying not to get relegated here.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a rough season for StrifeCro. It's kind of the opposite of what happened to StrifeCro in Season 1, where he had a blazing fast start, was at the top of his division through 4 weeks, and then just had a rough, last 3 weeks and ended up missing the playoff mark by just a bit. Now, I mean, essentially, he's just fighting with ETC to try and stay out of last place. And while the onus is on ETC to start picking up wins since he is 1 match behind, if StrifeCro goes 0-2 this week and ETC goes 1-1, all of a sudden they're tied with only 2 weeks left to play. So the pressure is on. Meanwhile, Muzzy's been having, he's been having a couple good weeks. He had not the best start as well. I think he's had, a good week, then a bad week, then a bad week, then a good week. But 4-4, it's kind of starting from scratch now going into the definitive second half of the season. And he's trying to finish out strong. But we're going to head into game number 1 here. It's going to be StrifeCro on the Highlander Hunter and Muzzy on the Control Warrior to start things off.
Yep. Muzzy and StrifeCro played on the end of week number 1 on Sunday, where this was a Reno Mage meta. Muzzy, of course, was one of the few people playing Cyclone Mage back then at the beginning. Muzzy was able to take the series 2-1, and it was a different meta, but one thing that's interesting to note is that both these players also were on the early combo priest train, while several other players were still figuring it out. As we go into game number 1 here, what's the most important thing that you found, TJ, from the Hunter's perspective to get the win? I feel like a lot of times, as the Hunter, simply saying having Dino Tamer Brandon in your opening hand is a little bit reductionist. I feel like Hunter has to be the one making the plays here because Warrior's just going to outlast them if they don't do anything. So is there any important turns outside of Dino Tamer Brandon that you feel like is crucial in this match?
Fighting Subject 9. I mean, in reality, with these Highlander decks, because you're sacrificing overall deck strength to play a couple key powerful cards, you need to find those key powerful cards. Like, that's how the Highlander decks are built. I throw Subject 9 in there because it is kind of a card that is powerful in the Highlander decks because it adds some level of consistency to it. But if you fall behind on board early, you're spending all these tools that you'd like to use to protect your board and continue pushing damage as opposed to using them to remove. So oftentimes I feel like this matchup, if you miss turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, it feels like you're too far behind for the rest of the game, and you have to rely on the Warrior either making a mistake or using tools like way too aggressively or way too liberally to try and climb back. StrifeCro does have that big mid-game punch. He's got Tiamat, he's got Dino Tamer Brand. If he can just kind of stop the bleeding until then and not really let Muzzy develop much and keep putting on a little bit of pressure, he still has a chance of that mid-game. But right off the bat, it's become quite awkward. Luckily for him, he did hit some secrets, so he has a relative curve. But it's not as powerful as if you had like Secret Keeper, Secret into 3-drop, into Hyena Alpha, for instance.
Sure.
And the Ursatron getting silenced, that's one of the other struggles for Hunter, is that they just don't really have much card draw outside of what, Ursatron and Subject 9. So if you don't find those tools early, or if they get shut down, you tend to run low on resources a lot, which is really detrimental because Warrior gives them time to find the removal, and they have the tools that they need in the late game to just clear everything that you play.
Yep. That being said, StrifeCro drew the snip snap anyways, which gives him an opportunity to redevelop right behind it.
I wonder.
I like this play. The Rat Trap pressure plate does introduce some logistical challenges for Muzzy to deal with.
Yeah, I think the threat of Rat Trap is honestly, you know, one thing that can give you an advantage in the matchup. Because oftentimes once you get later on to the game, if you can get to a point where you're putting on enough pressure to kind of force the warrior to use multiple cards in order to deal with your board, it means that usually they'll spend 2 cards to remove, and then they won't be able to develop behind it because you have Rat Trap available.
It also makes Warpath a little bit trickier to use as well.
Absolutely.
It's one of the better removals against some of the mid-sized boards that can arrive. But kind of like what you're talking about, Muzz just playing the pure removal game. Animal Companion. Zephyrus comes into the hand. So for 3 mana, StrifeCro will be given tools like SI7 Agent, Animal Companion, maybe the elusive Brightwing, TJ.
Oh, I mean, honestly, at this point,
you might take it.
I probably not, just because it feels too fancy of a play. You really only take it if you realize that you're just so far behind in the game that you need something extra. But then it's like, what's the best outcome from Brightwing? Like Tyrion, which you can just get if you hold on to Zephyrus itself for a while. It's just a matter of you're not getting those tempo tools out earlier. I mean, SI7 Agent does have some merit here as well. But I feel like at this point, StrifeCro didn't have an early game lead, and he's going to need something extra in the late game to try and get over the finish line that Zephyrus is probably going to be key.
Well, Brightwing is any legendary minion, period. Zephyrus.
That's in Standard.
That's in Standard.
Yes.
Zephyrus is only classic legendaries.
Tyrion is one of the best, even if you consider all Standard legendaries.
Sure.
Just because it's hard to pass up that much damage. But I guess Tyrion does have a little bit of a detrimental effect against this deck because StrifeCro doesn't run many weapons. He doesn't have Hunter's Pack. He doesn't have Desert Spear. He only has the Eaglehorn Bow and the potential Ashbringer, whereas Muzzy has 3 sources of weapon removal. He has 2 weapons projects and a Harrison. Right. So all of a sudden that makes Tyrion less.
Maybe it's better to go for Ysera in that case.
It might be, but there's also a ton of really, really, really bad legendaries in Standard.
Sure. I mean, you can go for Ysera with Zephyrus, I bet.
Oh, with Zephyrus.
For the if you want to pick any legendary in Standard, I'd probably just pick another Dino Timber brand. Quite frankly.
True, yeah.
Or if I could also guarantee one, I'd probably go for Sir Finley and then opt for a odd Paladin hero power.
I'd probably get a Elise the Enlightened.
Sure, that also works too. I'm just saying, like, any of these, like, super impactful legendaries that, like, the reason why the hero power would work for me is because it helps you grind the game out. Oh my god.
Yeah. I guess the inconsistency is where my mind goes, but is there a way to guarantee Ysera with Zephyrus later on in the game?
I believe that if you play Ysera going into 9 mana on the following turn, and you have nothing, and your opponent has nothing on their board, they will offer Ysera.
If you're at a high enough life total, right? Because if you're not, it'll
offer you like Guardian Kings or like Healing Touch.
Yeah.
And Zephyrus will often offer you 1 category per each slot. So they'll offer you, if there's like 3 options, it might give you development, removal, and heal or something along those lines.
Unfortunately, like when you play it on a turn, it oftentimes prioritizes tempo. Even if your opponent doesn't have anything on the board, it'll give you like Earth Elemental, Fire Elemental.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that StrifeCro can play Dino Timber Brand into Tiamat, or Tiamat first into Dino Timber Brand. That's also a possibility. One of the things that I've seen some players do is play Tiamat to draw out the removal. Because if you play Tiamat and say Divine Shield Rush, kill his 3/1, you have to kill off the 6/6, which is a little inconvenient, and then Dino Timber Brand comes down, then they can't deal with the 8/8.
That's a tough one because it also gives them a turn to find additional removal. He's already seen both Restless Mummies, so that's like a benefit to playing Siamat first, because he would have to use some kind of extra removal in order to take it out, which could give you like free reign to play Diamond Hammer Brand. But Muzzy also would have seen this card kept in the mulligan and know that it's there, because it's in the far left. You know, it has been played.
Woo! King Crush getting in for 8. Muzzy was hoping to drop 2 more into the Dr. Boom originally, perhaps, if he was given free reign to develop. But now he has to deal with this board. He does have the Weapons Project Armor Up Shield Slam. Very nice. Yep. Sequenced it perfectly, so that way the pressure plate doesn't destroy his minions, so he can't get that trade in.
Also means he doesn't play into Rat Trap. He's only playing 2 cards.
Warrior is handling the Hunter very nicely right now.
But actually, Siamat is more threatening when played on an empty board than King Crush, because you can get Divine Shield Wind Fury, and it's threatening 12 damage as opposed to 8.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. And Muzzy doesn't really have ways to deal with it easily. He has things he can put in front of the Siamat.
Yeah.
Zephyrus in this position, offering you the best possible minions that you can, often will go for maximum stats. This is usually a position where if you play Zephyrs, it offers you Earth Elemental, which is like a big thing.
This would be the highest likelihood for Ysera, though. You're at a high life total.
Sure.
Your opponent has a weapon, which may be
weird. It probably will offer you some weapon choices. Right, we go for the Earth Elemental.
Now it is going to be Earth Elemental, almost certainly.
And
oh, he's going for Harrison. That's what he was going for.
So he wants more card draw, like you said. Really smart.
Yeah. He got his Ursatron silenced. He hasn't picked up Subject 9, so I think this has a lot of merit. It's less stats, of course, than the Earth Elemental, but you get the 2 card draw, you get to shut down the Weapons Project.
It's so amusing to me that even despite the fact that you have only 5 mana and you're going to turn 9, it'll just like, yeah, Tyrion's just the best card. It just offers you that regardless. Because Tyrion is nutty.
I would think it would, especially going into 9 mana, it would offer Ysera over Tyrion. I don't know. Ysera's just more straight up value. But I guess it prioritizes Tyrion over every other classic legendary.
Subject 9 coming to the hand for StrifeCro. This is good pickups. That way his secrets aren't dead draws. This is a non-trivial amount of damage, TJ. 12 coming in hot. Muzzy's armor shredded.
Yeah, and he's not playing into, or he has a Rat Trap up, so he's protected from the Warpath.
Yeah, Brawl's the primary way Muzzy's going to deal with this.
Ooh, Plague of Wrath, though.
Second Plague of Wrath. So you can use the first one a little bit more generously or liberally.
Yeah. But he may unleash a Brawl here just because the Brawl may...
no,
he's going to play the Snipes, yeah.
Plus, it might have been an opportunity for him to activate Rat Trap if he attacked the wrong one. Not Rat Trap, Snake Trap.
Snake Trap. I was going to say, Plague of Wrath, especially with Kaboom, don't have to play into Rat Trap and gets Blast Shield. Sometimes this matchup, once you play Dr. Boom, you can get whittled down if you don't get Blast Shields intermittently. Because they're just going to keep hero powering you and hitting you with weapons. And that can just be enough at times, especially if you consider Eaglehorn Bow.
I wonder.
Muzzy using the Kaboom plus the Plague of Wrath. I wonder if this is going to prompt StrifeCro to go for the Siamat this turn.
He has been trying to protect it a little bit. I mean, he hasn't had too many opportunities to play it because going for the Harrison Jones with Zephyrus did seem really good.
It's true. And, you know, now that turn 10 has been unlocked, you have things like Omega Devastator and Omega Assembly, which are somewhat threats. And Siamat is resilient against both of those.
Yeah.
Rise quickly. Winds of the South, come to my aid.
StrifeCro definitely wants to get the Eagle Horn Bow online as well, so that way he can get those extra charges. That the swings, every extra swing will be massive. Seeing a potentially massive impact. Our Megadillo coming into the hand here for Muzzy. That has potential to be very nice, given that 2 Morn gets that extra buff. 2 Morn's just as 3/6s get eaten up by 1 Tiamat, and Tiamat's still going to be fine.
They could try and shield block, but I don't know what he's looking for by shield blocking. That's the problem. Our Megadillo is the same. It just gets eaten up, but you get the effect of it, and it softens up the Tiamat if you were to just use it. Muzzy also knows that there's a Lynx in hand, which means that StrifeCro could push 6 with just Tiamat Lynx. And actually, StrifeCro has the potential to just protect the life total altogether on the Tiamat and keep the Divine Shield up with Unleash the Beast plus an Eagle Horn Bow. Doesn't get to weave in hero power, but gets to push 12. And it forces a lot of things out of Muzzy. It forces the weapon removal out if he were to have it. It also forces him to deal with both the 5/1 on board and the Tiamat that still has Divine Shield.
I wonder.
Yeah, I like pushing 12 any capacity this turn here from StrifeCro. Looking for any alternative plays. I don't really see that many. Looks like StrifeCro's.
He could Eagle Horn Bow and play some secrets and just push 6 this turn, and then hold on to the Unleash the Beast. This also lets him push some hero power damage, which is like more efficient damage over the long run, but he is weak to a Mega Devastator with this line of play.
Yeah, he is, but he's acknowledging that either way because of the microbots. So the Divine Shield is not that valuable.
Yep.
Weapons Project. The second one here from Muzzy. That is a very impactful draw. To shut down StrifeCro's ability to constantly get weapon charges, it's going to have big implications. So that tracking can help StrifeCro get closer to the Zul'jin that he seeks. But for now, StrifeCro may opt instead to set up all these secrets to try and get more charges off the bow. But by doing that, he's going to make it so it's a very nice, juicy weapons project to shut this down.
Are there any cards that he absolutely needs from tracking? He actually has a lot of
Zul'jin?
Yeah, I don't think so. He has like a Secret Keeper in his deck. Oh, that's tough.
Wow, you can almost make a case for any of these.
Well, there's no secrets left in the deck, so Mass Contender is not good.
That's fair.
Hyena Alpha is the most just raw stats as opposed to Ziliax, even though Ziliax could help you push a little bit of damage through.
This is smart from StrifeCro, recognizing that this is probably going to be a game where he is unable to obtain maximum value from the bow. I think a lot of players would have been holding on to that bow, especially with so many secrets in hand.
Yeah. Eternium Rover and Rusty Recycler are health gain. Which at this point, I don't think you can rely on getting more blast shields.
Flashlings are so fragile.
Yeah, you're definitely not able to guarantee it. So you might as well keep trying to find ways to be defensive. The Unleash the Beast here looks nice as a setup for Zul'jin. StrifeCro having Hyena Alpha also as a way to develop the board behind it, something to consider, but is he going too wide at that point? Maybe instead he Unleashed the Beast and plays a secret, weaving in those hero powers. That would make somewhat sense because StrifeCro can play Hyena Alpha anytime versus the spells want to be played before Zul'jin. So StrifeCro wants to play things like Freezing Trap and whatnot before Zul'jin comes out. this case, he's going maximum pressure, maximum tempo.
Yeah, I don't blame him. He's got Rat Trap up again, protecting him from Warpath. And trying to get the Rat Trap to go off before he plays Zul'jin also has merits. That way Zul'jin pulls you another one to just make the entire game awkward for Muzzy. Effectively shut off Warpath for most of its the time that it's relevant. Muzzy also has Deathwing in his deck. We've seen a couple players have that inclusion over the past couple weeks. I think Viper's one of them. Does give you that last big removal for waves of threats against, you know, say like Druid, for instance, where you oftentimes need those.
Light the fuses!
But every step of the way, it's being diffused. And I think this is probably a dump your entire hand and set up for a Zul'jin.
Yeah, the freezing trap onto the Dynamatic does seem a little weird, given that you'd be setting up the Secret Keeper to be killed off by the Dynamatic right back. But I'd probably play the other two secrets as well.
Here comes the
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Wants it right now.
He's going to summon 3 things through Animal Companions and the Rushers.
Oh, oh man.
My goodness.
That is rough.
Yeah. That was real brutal.
I mean, it's unlikely that StrifeCro would be able to stick those minions on the board anyway with just how much removal Muzzy has. I mean, with Zul'jin played, he could just like microbots, trade in Plague of Wrath. But now it just doesn't look like StrifeCro's going to be able to get a foothold at all. Mark Shot can sometimes make a difference. Maybe he gets a Dire Frenzy.
Yeah, Dire Frenzy would have to be
I'm gonna need more cards.
what he draws right now because things are not looking good. The Explosive Shot lane had a high chance of fail, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah. It had 1 in 3 to be the worst possible outcome. 1 in 3 to be a pretty bad outcome. And then 1 in 3 to be a good outcome. So 2 out of those 3 were pretty punishing.
Yeah, the only way that would have not happened was if he had it go off before
He
summoned
summoned
the
minions.
minions.
But that's the failure rate of Zul'jin. And I believe StrifeCro's last card in his deck is Kill Command. But 5 damage does not seem like it's going to be enough.
I know what you did.
He's going to try his best to kind of set things up, but too little too late, I'm afraid.
Yep, this attack here is going to reveal the Snake Trap. Harrison Jones and the Weapons Project, very strong combination, and this Weapons Project is going to activate on Pressure Plate, finally getting a modicum of value, but nothing else. Harrison going to draw 3 cards deeper, and I think that's going to be it here for StrifeCro. Deathwing.
Muzzy back to a nice, cool 34 life.
Last card is the Sunreaver Spy.
Where'd the Kill Command go?
Kill Command was played. There it is.
Oh, yep, there it is. Oh, it does show up on our tracker. It's just really small.
Yeah, StrifeCro's last hope is this miniature offensive.
Got something to
He knows that there's a strong possibility Muzzy has Brawl. Secret Keeper, a decent threat, but not really enough here. And this, Can brawl here, and then most likely clean up anything through the microbots. Even Zul'jin, or not Zul'jin, Ziliax will be able to clean up everything. No, actually not, because of the freezing trap.
Yeah.
So he's gonna attack first because of the freezing trap, then brawl.
Oh, Plague of Rats.
Sure.
Most consistent way to eliminate the most damage on the board, I guess.
Yeah, Muzzy has optimized his removal. Really nicely done. Game number 1. Over to Muzzy. Looking to see if he can finally break his 1-1 streak.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like StrifeCro's Hunter deck is optimized for the Warrior matchup specifically. The Bring is interesting because it does have some game against Priest, but unfortunately without like additional value in tools, it's just not going to get over the line against Warrior if they have even some of their best removal. So not getting the win in game 1, but a lot of aggression still packed into StrifeCro's lineup.
Yeah, we'll see. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Muzzy versus StrifeCro game number 2. Stay tuned.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The Scales of Justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley. We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonily timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there. A fish.
No! It's the Scales of Justice!
Oh. Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! On second thoughts, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
I'm Mazahidul Islam. I go by Muzzy in game. My username, as you know, my first name is Mazahidul. It's kind of difficult to say for some people, and every time someone calls you, you know, they're gonna have to say, "Hey, Mazahidul." You know, that's long, and you don't want to say that. My friend gave me a nickname, you know, like, "Hey Muzz, hey Muzzy." So I sort of just took that, and you know, name's Muzzy. I took a look at the list of players. Some of them have been more focused on streaming, I would say, in these past few years. I've participated at the highest levels of competition that they might not have appeared in. I'm the player to beat in my group, for sure. The thing that I most look forward to about competing in Grandmasters is the thrill of the competition. It's really why I play Hearthstone. It's what I've enjoyed doing for the past 3-4 years, and it's what I'll continue to enjoy doing, hopefully. I think Hearthstone Instinct is definitely my greatest skill set. I think that if I took a break for a while and didn't play the game and came back to new cards, I think I could pilot a new deck fairly well, fairly quickly. People would always mention the term burnout to me. burnout, burnout, burnout. I didn't know what it was. I would constantly play Hearthstone all the time. I definitely want to have more titles and put my name in Hearthstone history.
Game number 2 is going to be a Priest versus Paladin matchup. We've seen a lot of Priest over the course of the past couple of weeks, so much so that Grandmasters players are actively just bringing Priest as an auto-include in a lot of their lineups. That being said, the bans prevent Muzzy from playing his own Priest, given that he protected Warrior to try to get the win against Priest. And now StrifeCro is going to go up against Muzzy's OTK Paladin. The history between these two players is Muzzy is currently leading 2-1 as they both split games in Season 1. And now as we go into game number 2 here, take a look at Muzzy's Holy Wrath Paladin. Seems pretty straightforward, TJ.
As standard as they get. That's right. Subdue and Zephyrus, the two new inclusions. There is the High Priestess the Call in the list. That we've seen rotated out from time to time, especially in Americas. I think in Europe it's quite standard. But in Americas, I think, you know, we see some players decide to add in a little bit of removal redundancy or choose over champion, for instance. But Muzzy has it. Priest, of course, can never really count him out in just about any matchup. I think that Priest has come out on top of this matchup a lot, despite a few players early on in the season saying that they thought that Holy Wrath Paladin was a counter to it. And that was even before the extra arms nerf.
Yeah, the extra arms nerf, you know, for most people saying it probably won't do much, given that extra arms was only a symptom of the problem. And when I say problem, it's just the dominance of Priest's early game by having a few early turns of what feels like game-determining outcomes. You have the early game board control through 1-drops into Injured Tolvir, Injured Blade Master, revive it all through Psychopomb. It's already looking like a hand that leads to success here for StrifeCro.
Yeah, he can kill the Wild Pyromancer here, but it does leave his Light Warden vulnerable. But his follow-up is decent. He has Injured Blade Master, Circle of Healing. He'll have a 4/7. He can trade over the Wild Pyromancer. And then if his Light Warden dies, Psychopomp reviving the Light Warden is not the worst thing in the world, considering his follow-up of Injured Tolvir and Neverset Ritualist. Because he'd have 2 minutes to heal, since the Injured Blade Master would likely be damaged in whatever way that Muzzy has to remove the Light Warden. It's not the most efficient ways to remove the Light Warden either. It's either Wild Pyromancer coin something or coin Hammer Wrath. Both cases use the coin, which can be a vital resource to get you to removal on big threats.
Job's done.
But he can't afford to take too much damage or let this Light Warden get out of control.
Choose for champion. Useful card. StrifeCro can even play around it by having Injured Tolvir and Neverset Ritualist, maximizing his board presence.
The end.
Instead, he's going to go for the Psychopomp play like you're talking about.
Yeah, I think this is smart, just because that Light Warden with his hand has the potential to be a massive threat. He can't deal with it just with like a Consecration because it'll revive, and that means it's just going to get bigger with Injured Tolvir or Injured Blade Master into Neverset Ritualist. It'll gain that attack. And
yeah, it seems like to me that Muzzy's just going to be taking damage for a while. And any heal that he puts out is also going to make the Light Warden stronger. Attacking with the True Silver Champion makes Light Warden stronger.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal. Flash of Light, even Crystal Smith Kangor, like pretty much everything's negated because every time you attack into it, he gains 2. But that also means the Light Warden gains 2 attack. So he's just going to go for True Silver Champion equip and Stop.
Oh, he is in for a bad time with the Nerset Ritualist. Now, the one caveat is StrifeCro is wondering, is Muzzy baiting me into a Shrink Ray? It's one thing that could be on the forefront of his mind.
I mean, he could always go for a play that doesn't use many resources. He could go for Injured Tolvir and just heal it. It puts one extra card on board. It's a taunt that doesn't get killed by a True Server champion. He's still relatively safe from a Consecration because the Light Warden comes back, and then he follows that up with Injured Blade Master. He can even throw him Power Word Shield. Just because it replaces itself in hand, it makes him more resilient to Consecration, which the Injured Tolvir plus heal play would be weaker to in general. So I like that play. It's not expending too much, but it's still putting on pressure. If that board somehow gets removed, he follows that up with the Neferset Ritualist play. But it looks like he just wants to go kind of all in here. Not all in, but as far in as he can go, given the circumstances.
Go semi-in, TJ. And this is looking pretty bad tempo-wise for Muzzy. It's not even necessarily Northshire Cleric or Divine Spirit. This is what Tempo Priest honestly should be.
Tempo Priest?
Yeah.
It's everything Priest. It's Aggro Priest, Tempo Priest, Combo Priest, and Control Priest all rolled into one.
I think calling it Control Priest is pretty generous.
They can, though. That's the thing.
I guess.
I guess if it is playing Control game plan, it's playing it to get to the combo, so then it would just fall into the category of Combo Priest. Okay, so not Control Priest, but Aggro Priest, Combo Priest, and Tempo Priest all are... It can fit into each one of those archetypes.
Yeah, but like to be quite fair though, like this is an okay way to win. If I have to be very honest. Like,
just playing minions and
you're
healing
playing
them up.
minions. It's like no different than when Zoo Warlock gets a 3/3 and a 5/5 by tempoing, punching you out of the game. It's just that they have a different functional hero power. This felt more honest.
It did.
What was really bad about it?
I mean,
he just played stuff and hero powered it, and then played Circle of Healing. I was like, oh yeah, wow, I can't believe my opponent had minions.
Light Warden, Northshire Cleric, and Injured Blade Master.
So toxic for the metagame, TJ.
It is.
They played a 1-mana minion with 1 mana crystal.
And it's been around forever.
They played a 2-mana minion. Oh no, it died.
No, I'm saying that combo.
It's not active.
Light Warden, Northshire Cleric, and Injured Blade Master have been around forever. That combo has never gone away. All the cards that he played except for Cycle Pump on the first few turns have always been available.
Nice job looking for a clear here by Muzzy. In fact, he lined this up really nicely with the Wild Pyromancer. That is his second Wild Pyromancer. And, you know, we kind of wrote things off as if Muzzy had already lost, but that was a great comeback spot, 2-turn spot here from him. Being able to utilize timeout in a position where it was very threatening otherwise. And now StrifeCro without Northshire Cleric. What's it going to do?
Could still keep playing for tempo. Trade over Wild Pyromancer, heal up Injured Blade Master, then play the 2 minions and Circle of Healing.
Seems good to me.
Okay.
All in.
All in. I like it. Still an Acolyte of Pain.
Right, and Muzzy
Blood
does
Mage.
have the ability to utilize Holy Wrath this turn, and then next turn be able to play Shirvala. Perhaps this turn Muzzy wants to just draw, though. He can Novice Engineer, Elven Archer, Acolyte of Pain if he doesn't want to go for a Shirvala play. Because next turn, even if he discounts Shirvala to 6, still going to take up most of his mana.
And he hasn't picked up Baleful Banker yet. And if he uses Shirvala and it doesn't clear off all of the damage on the board, and he doesn't bounce it back, StrifeCro can just kill it and then play the long game. Zephyrs would be the only threat left.
Yeah, but you can Shepherd's Baleful Banker. That can get you a win. I think with Muzzy, perhaps he can go for an Acolyte, Novice, Elven Archer play, and the reason why that would work is because he might activate Zephyrs by drawing deeper into his deck.
That's true.
I hope you like my invention.
Main duplicates to consider right now. With that Prismatic Lens draw is Baleful Banker. That's it. Now Zephyr should be active.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I think the card draw here was really nice. And Muzzy sequenced it really well by Novice Engineering first. Finds the Prismatic Lens, which draws a Baleful Banker. I don't think it's a guarantee, but it was a likelihood. And then Shrink Ray becoming for 2 mana. Really convenient if Muzzy's able to pick up other forms of removal or just using it with Elven Archer next turn.
Yeah, I mean, next turn he could Shrink Ray Zephyr's Consecration.
This is looking like Muzzy's turned this around. And it's probably leading to a 2-0 win. And StrifeCro's on the rocks. No North Shire Cleric. Divine Spirit Inner Fire nowhere to be seen. And turns out when Priest plays an honest game, it's pretty middling deck at best. I mean, it's good tempo, right?
Yeah.
He even threatened at one point. But 13 damage is not enough. And even though he can get Muzzy down to single digits, like Muzzy's about to take full control over the game. That being said, he still has some Hearthstone to play. StrifeCro can still pick up one zombie, can still pick up a Met that's hard to deal with. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is devastating. And has the ability to set up his Kangor.
And play Shirvala plus Baleful Banker next turn to heal to essentially full life.
Way too late. Although, again, StrifeCro chose to go a little bit fast because he tried to pressure Muzzy before he can get his card draw off.
Yeah.
I mean, had he chose to wait a little bit longer, would that have made that big difference? Or do you feel like StrifeCro needs to go in that turn, TJ?
I feel like he went in at the appropriate time because the longer you wait, the more opportunity you let them have time to pick up big pieces of removal. If he hadn't gone in as far, Muzzy may not have had to, you know, use Timeout or Wild Pyromancer or Consecration. He could have just kind of left it as is and kept drawing cards. Maybe like 1 or 2 minions that he could have played on board that he could have kept.
Speak to me.
But I don't know if that would have made that much of a difference. And smart play from Muzzy, knowing that StrifeCro has no way to interact with the board. So he could just play this Shirvala and honestly use it as just a big minion that's going to threaten. And StrifeCro picks up Topsy-Turvy, essentially useless, which means Muzzy takes a 2-0.
That's right, beating the Priest, starting off with the Warrior. And Muzzy's Paladin deck gets the win. His unusual techs with like the Deathwing and the Warrior not kicking in today, but he'll have a chance later this weekend as Muzzy's going to be playing Nalgidon on Sunday for a chance to maybe even move up to the top 3 or top 2 of the standings in the division.
Yeah, Nalgidon's currently at the top at 6-2, which means that if he loses his next match and goes down to 6-3, then Muzzy has an opportunity to equalize and tie for potentially first place at that point. A lot can happen in the next couple of days, but that is a big win, puts him in that firmly in the top half.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with with Muzzy, who just took down StrifeCro by a score of 2-0. Muzzy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
All right, so, you know, pretty straightforward series. It looks like 2-0 where you just kind of outlasted him in both of those games there. I kind of wanted to start directing things towards the protect and ban stage. It's a little bit unusual. We haven't seen too many people go for a protect hunter strategy, and then you responded by banning his mech paladins. A lot of respect for 2 unusual decks that we see.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on that?
Well, StrifeCro brought different decks, and my other opponent, Nalgidon, also has the Mech Pally, so I had to test a bit more this week against matchups and decks that I'm not as familiar versus. And, I mean, there are some, like, the decks are pretty good. I mean, I respect Bandit to try to get an edge in the series, and I was able to line up my matchups well. I think the Reno Hunter Warrior matchup, it's debated. I think like stats, I never trust stats anymore on HS replay. Like I go there and they say Reno Hunter beats this, and then I go into practice, I play against it with this, and just Reno Hunter loses over and over and over. So I don't really know about the matchups there, but I had confidence in my decks this week. Brought Warrior for the first time in a while. You know, I had the Deathwing in there. I like to play greedy. I like cool cards like that. So it didn't get to come out. I would have played it if StrifeCro stuck in that last game, because he had nothing left pretty much. I would have jammed it. But
you had the opportunity to. You could have.
Yeah, I know, but there was
instead
like
of Plague of
Yeah, he has freezing trap in the hand. He can't.
And even I'd still win.
Come on, Muzz.
It's true, because if you had freezing trap, that was his only card left. That and explosive trap, I don't think he would have gotten there. Not by a long
He just
shot.
had hero power left. What was he gonna do? You could have just waited till you had another minion.
That's fine.
You had 34
I'll do it
health.
next opportunity.
Got it. So, you know, going into your next match against Nalgadon, you said you had to practice the matchups a lot. Are you still practicing mainly with Saiyan, or are you practicing by yourself? Because when Saiyan talks, he's referencing the practice group. And I was kind of wondering where you're sitting at.
So the practice group is more like we practice matchups in there, but we also discuss a lot of what we think and what our opponents are going to bring. The gameplay more is versus you practice more versus your opponent's decks after they come out, right? I usually just still jam games against myself. I think that's the best way for me to absorb matchups from both sides and see how it works out.
Got it. Yeah, borrowed deck feature is super clutch for that. Muzzy, actually, just to follow up on one of the questions or comments rather that you said, is that you don't trust stats anymore, or you question them. Is there any explanation in your end on why that is? Because you're not the first, nor will you be the last player to say that whenever we're talking to them about what's the publicly available data.
Yeah, so Manny Skull, Ivan, he's a guy who I've talked to for years. He does a lot of compiling on data and helps me out with matchups and bans and other things that I talk about based on stats. And his sort of explanation was on Aegis Replay, the decks aren't specifically classified correctly in terms of their win rates. Like you could play a certain deck, like some Highlander hunters are like classified as secret hunters, you know, even though they're a Highlander deck. So the matchups, it's not getting. I don't think the decks are specifically getting the exact matchups like they're supposed to line up against an HS Replay. Mainly.
Got it. So because there's a lot of fluidity in deck building and the way you can interpret decks just based off a small package of cards, some of that data gets obscured. Got it. Makes sense. Well, that's a lot of great insight, Muzz. We don't have to reveal too much of your secret strats. So we're going to dismiss you here. Thanks so much. Congrats on 2-0, and we'll see you back on Sunday.
All right. See you guys then.